So just to get started, I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at EHN.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Rochelle Hildebrand. I'm a senior executive director with EHN Canada. I've been with EHN coming up on about 10 years this fall, which is very exciting. And I am responsible for all of our outpatient programming. So we provide both inpatient, um, you know, um, residential care as well as outpatient programming. And my team does all of the outpatient programming.
Nice. Wow, 10 years. Congratulations.
Yeah,
It's a big
thank you.
milestone.
It is. It is.
Good. Okay, so if you had 30 seconds only, where you could brag about the best thing about EHN's intensive outpatient program,
Yeah.
what would you say is the most brag-worthy?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most exciting and the most innovative part is that we are bringing intensive mental health treatment options to employee benefits, which is brand new in a lot of ways. So, that's really innovative. Mental health treatment is like any other treatment. There are options for mild symptoms, there are specific treatment plans for moderate symptoms, severe symptoms. And this is no different. So we're increasing access, and that's always the most exciting thing for me.
Hmm. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of benefit plans, right, in the last couple of years, those of us who weren't, involved in mental health programming and the mental health treatment behind the scenes have started to notice from our clients really the request for more beyond what we had in our benefit plans, right? We've had for years, the acute treatment where it's confidential, employees can call in, employers pay as a per employee per month model, and the access is there. But in the last couple of years, we've gotten a lot of requests for moderate to severe, and employers kind of going, what do I do for this? And wait lists at other places, and hard to find the access to care. So when did EHN sort of decide to go into this area of moderate to severe mental health? And was it before the pandemic, and then the pandemic highlighted it, or was it as a response? Kind of when did you guys decide to fill that void that employers are now really aware of?
So our roots started in intense and moderate treatment. So EHN as a provider was very much focused on highly intensive inpatient treatment programs, right? The kind of treatment options where a client or an employee might stay, 45 to 70 days with us in one of our facilities. So that's really where our roots lie. And we started doing intensive outpatient programs about 10 years ago as well. And so we have always really been focused on that void. That is the roots of why we exist, because employees have needed more for a really long time. And what we've always seen is that the access is really difficult for them. There's always a lack of funding, or there's a lack of treatment places. There's wait lists for the programs that do exist. So, while we think employee benefits plans have been doing a great job with crisis through EAP and a great job with mild through EAP and ICBT and all the wonderful things they've done, the void for us has always been on this end, that more moderate to severe. And you mentioned the pandemic, and I know we're hearing that a lot, but it really did highlight, I think, for everyone else, the void. I think it really brought this void into national attention and national conversation, both within the healthcare system, within the employee benefit system. Like, I think everybody really saw how much was lacking.
Yeah, I
For
think that's true.
Canadians.
Even being in the
Yeah,
benefits industry, we sort of thought, well, you have, the coverage for the psychologists on your plan and the
exactly.
EAP, and it felt
Yeah,
like enough for a long time. And maybe it
yeah,
always wasn't, but the pandemic really has brought it to the forefront to go, okay, it really is
absolutely.
not enough,
Yeah,
and we have to do
yeah,
more.
absolutely. And so, in terms of us really wanting to step into this void, I think actually what's been really, really amazing is we're seeing a lot of really innovative employers and TPAs and benefits, like McFadden coming forward to us and saying, okay, we see this need now. How can we work together to fix it? How can we work to solve it for employees? Because we know they need more and we want to provide them more. So for us, it's just been a wonderful experience to start to partner with organizations like McFadden, where we're now on the same page and we're going, okay, we know they need more. How do we get it to them? How do we do this together?
Yeah, it's been really exciting to, start talking to you guys over the last year and try to figure out how we fill that void. Because, first, like, there is a void, and now, okay, we have to do something, but it takes a long time, right, to get the pieces in place and understand the partnership. So we're thrilled.
Us too.
Awesome. Okay, so the actual product that, that we're building the partnership on, the Mental Health Connect, can you go through from the basics, for the people. Most people will be hearing about this for the first time. They kind of have maybe a little bit of knowledge that something's coming to help with that void, but for most people, they won't know what Mental Health Connect is. Could you tell us what it is from the get-go?
Yeah, absolutely. So Mental Health Connect is a program that we've put together really designed to help employers bring more intensive mental health supports to their employees. And we've really thought about access, we've thought about education, as well as the actual treatment program itself. So there are three key kind of components to the Mental Health Connect program, and one of them is the treatment, right? So part of Mental Health Connect means that your employees get access to our intensive outpatient programs. And our intensive outpatient programs are really designed to support that higher level of care that EAP and psychology benefits just weren't designed for, right? And this is a program that provides employees with 9 hours of therapy per week. So it, like when we say intensive, we mean intensive. It's 9 hours of therapy per week for 8 weeks. And then they get 10 months of supportive aftercare treatment. So it's really important that we spend 8 weeks really focusing on the symptoms, teaching them the skills that they need to manage those symptoms. And then we have 10 months to support them as they continue to incorporate that in their lives. And so this is a program that's available for multiple different mental health conditions that we offer. And it's available and designed to be able to support employees who are still working. So it's available in the evenings, right? You can do your workday, and then you can hop online and do your intensive outpatient program and get that support you need while still maintaining your life. So that's the biggest component, is that actual treatment. And I would say, really one of the really innovative pieces here is that unlimited access to IOP programs.
Is it also available during the day for employers and employees who have the availability to take that time?
Absolutely. Yeah. So. Great. And we have time zones because we serve the entire country. We have time zone options, right? We have daytime in the East, we have daytime in the West, we have evening in the East, evening in the West, and Central Time. So we're really trying to be as flexible as we can to make sure that employees can fit it in with their life. Yeah. Great. Yeah. So the second component is our immersive education program. So we are offering any of the McFadden clients an immersive education session that's going to run every single month, and you can sign up your folks for it. It's really designed for leaders within the company, whether that's managers, frontline leaders like team leads, HR staff, leadership, right? Your senior leadership.
Yeah.
And it's really designed to help our leaders understand what mental health is. What is the difference between wellness initiatives and mental illness treatment? What does mental health look like? How does it show up in the workplace? What are some signs and symptoms that maybe you're dealing with a mental health condition at work? And what are the types of treatments that are available for folks? What's available under the Mental Health Connect program? And most importantly, like, how do you talk to an employee about this? How do you support them? How do you bring this up? So when we talk immersive education, it's really to help our leaders get a much better understanding of mental health. Because look, most of us aren't clinicians. We don't come with this knowledge built in, right? So it's important to learn it.
Do more of your referrals come from leaders and managers, or from the employees themselves signing on and accessing, the start to treatment?
Hmm. I actually think both of those things kind of work together in conjunction. So typically the employee themselves is the one who initiates, that they are ready to start some kind of treatment. And typically they do want to do that in a more private way, which is really important. And it's key to the way that we've incorporated this program as a per employee per month option, that employees do have that privacy. They can go and get that help without talking to their manager. But I think our leaders are the ones who create a workplace that is supportive of that. We create an environment and a culture that is supportive of mental health and that says, hey, like, if you're struggling, this is available for you and you should take advantage of this because we're here to help and support you if you are having a mental health challenge. So I do think it works both ways, because if our leaders don't champion these kinds of programs, employees don't know that they exist and they don't access them.
Do you want to go back to, sorry, I interrupted you or asked you another question before you got to finish talking about Mental Health Connect. So yeah, you get back to it.
Our third component is that we're offering all of our McFadden clients to access this program, an anonymous and evidence-based screening tool. So you've heard me talk a lot about levels of care, right? That there are mild symptoms, there are people with moderate, severe symptoms. And again, we're not all clinicians. We don't know what that looks like, right? And we don't know that there are specific treatments that have been clinically proven to be best suited for each of those categories. So our screening tool can really help employees figure out what's going on with them, because most of us don't know, right? And why would we? Like, again, we're not clinicians, we're not doctors, we don't know this stuff. So our mental health screening tool is going to be available, and any employee can go in, they can use that tool, they can go through a series of evidence-based approved screening questions that are going to tell them, maybe you're having moderate depression. It's going to help you identify where you are and what that issue is, and then it's going to help you and recommend the appropriate treatment options for you. And if the recommendations are something that's covered under Mental Health Connect, it can actually give you the option to connect directly with us to help you get into that program that you need. So it's a really supportive tool. It can be used by employees themselves. I think, something that leaders can promote and send out periodically to their folks to say, hey, if you are having an issue, check it out. See what's going on so that you can figure out what's right for you.
Okay. Could leaders take it, answer it as they think their employee might answer, for them to, assess whether they think a person might need them to reach out, or is it more for the person themselves to take it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important for the person themselves to take it, because I think what we know about mental health and the workplace is that most employees do not want and are not disclosing all of their mental health symptoms in the workplace, right? There's still stigma. There's still a lot of us who want to deal with it in private. So I do think it's probably safest for the employee to take it themselves, because that's going to give the screening tool the most accurate picture of what could be a good fit for the client.
What do you think the key benefits are to McFadden clients for joining on and starting out in this exciting initiative?
Yeah, I think there are so many benefits, and it's something obviously that's been really top of mind. I mean, first and foremost, getting people the help they need is always the most important benefit, right? And I think that has huge impacts on the workplace, because if we get employees the treatment that they need and we make it really accessible for them, ideally we can avoid long-term disability claims by getting them that support early and making sure that they have what they need. We want to keep employees at work, right? We want to increase their productivity. We want to decrease absenteeism and presenteeism and all of those things that come along with struggling with a mental health condition. One of the ways that we determine whether somebody is sort of mild, moderate, or severe is we look at their ability to function in their life. Functioning is a huge piece. And as things become more severe, function decreases, right? We're less able to participate at work. We're less able to participate in our family life, in our home life, in our community. And so when we think about the bigger picture of the workplace, people with a lot of untreated and unsupported mental health conditions can really struggle to function at work. So first and foremost is always helping folks, getting them well and supporting them. I think that's a huge benefit to the workplace. I also think that it's really important that we attract and retain amazing employees, and we all know how hard it is to replace an amazing employee, how much time and effort that takes. And I think that expectations are really shifting when it comes to mental health benefits. I think that we're really going to see employees looking for mental health benefits through their workplace that mimic vision care or dental care, right? You know that if you have a good dental plan through your work, you're going to get what you need. Your dental health is going to be taken care of. It's going to be covered, and you can get that regular support that you need. And I think that we're going to see that shift. Employees are going to be looking to work for companies that provide that extensive and supportive mental health benefit. So that's my prediction for the future.
Awesome. I agree. Yeah, I really like the per employee per month model too. I like the confidentiality that an employee could, contact you guys without having to disclose it if they don't want to, and certainly could share with their company if they felt comfortable. So.
Yeah, it's a good point. I do think that's really important. We know that there are workplaces out there who care about most of our workplaces, we care about our employees, right? But we know that there are workplaces out there that if the employee came forward and said, hey, I'm really having trouble, will you help me with mental health treatment? A lot of them would say yes. But the issue is that employee does not want to come forward.
Yeah.
Who among us wants our boss to know that we're not able to do our job as well as we used to right now?
Yeah.
None of us want that. So being able to get treatment and know that your workplace is supporting you without having to disclose your personal health to your manager or to an HR or team or something like that, I think is really attractive to employees.
Yeah, I agree. That's a big deal. So back to the leadership training. That's a piece you mentioned that, in terms of when we're talking about mental health strategies with clients, it's one of the things that is really proven that if you don't train your leaders, all of the other work that you're doing may not have as higher results as you would like to yield. Could you maybe just go a little bit into sort of, why it's important to make sure all of your leaders kind of have access to training and continued learning about mental health?
Yeah, I think it goes back to this idea that, again, we're not all clinicians. We don't come with this knowledge built in, right? It's not part of our school training. It's not part of our job training. This just isn't something that most of us are really familiar with unless you work in mental health or healthcare. It's just not base knowledge that you already have. So I think if we want to create a workplace that really is proactive about employee mental health, our leadership teams have to gain that base knowledge. It's really important. And then I think the other thing is for leaders, we all deal with performance management of employees, and there is an intersection of mental health struggles and performance management, right? We've just talked about how mental health impacts functioning. And so sometimes, the individuals who are struggling with moderate or severe mental health, the way that they're showing up in the workplace looks like performance management. And then our leaders are in those situations trying to coach somebody and maybe looking at it in the wrong way, right? Maybe thinking that, this is just somebody who's not that interested anymore, when in reality, they might actually be dealing with a mental health issue. And so how can you have that knowledge? How can you have that base knowledge to really support that employee back to health and back to work?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
You mentioned there's a number of conditions that are well suited for treatment Can you just go through a couple of those conditions?
Yeah, for sure. So, intensive outpatient programs, the actual format that we're talking about, the 9 hours of therapy a week, that's a very evidence based model, been thoroughly screened, and actually came out of addiction medicine and addiction treatment. So, intensive outpatient programs are always a really good fit for anybody struggling with, a moderate to low severe substance use disorder. But in the last 10 years, we've also really seen within healthcare and mental health care, IOPs being used with great success for depression, for anxiety, for operational stress injury. So, supporting employees who have trauma symptoms either due to a specific incident at work or due to working conditions that necessarily create high risk for trauma, stress, that kind of thing. So, they really can be used to treat a variety of conditions. Again, it's really about that severity.
Okay, interesting. And the actual IOP experience. So if you're an employee and this sounds really great to you and you're thinking about maybe initiating whether this is the right fit, but if you're starting to expect what would your first session in the IOP look like? Can you explain a bit about the experience for the actual employee entering treatment?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I mentioned, it is 9 hours of therapy per week. So, when you first come to us, number one, we're always going to make sure that this is the right program for you. Whether you've completed the online screening and you're pre-screened and we think this is the right fit, or whether you haven't done that and you've just called us directly and said, hey, like I'm covered by, McFadden Benefits, like I'm interested in IOP. First thing we're always going to do is make sure that this is the right program for you, right? We don't want to put you in a program that isn't going to be safe or supportive or healthy for you. So that's the first step. Once we establish that this is going to be a good fit for you, we're going to register you in your program and you're going to start attending both individual therapy and group therapy. Group therapy, I know, can be a bit of a scary word for a lot of folks because most of us haven't experienced it. But what I will tell you is that unanimously at the end of our program, that is what patients have loved the most, is the group aspect of our program. And group therapy is very evidence-based. It's very supportive. So, you're going to start attending your 9 hours of therapy per week, and you're going to do a lot of groups, and you're going to learn a lot of skills, and you're going to get a lot of support from others in the group. So a typical group session, say it's in the evening after work, it's 2 hours long. You're going to log on to your group. You're going to get, a nice notification reminding you of the group, giving you access to the group, who your therapist is, everything like that. You're going to work with about usually the same 2 therapists for your entire 8 weeks. So people are going to get to know you. And you're going to log into your group, and usually the first thing we're going to do is a mindfulness exercise, right? So everyone is coming from a big day. Maybe you've had a big day at work, or you've been taking care of your kids, or like whatever it is that you've been doing that day. We're going to calm, we're going to ground ourselves, we're going to get focused and create a space where we can really focus on the group session and the therapy that we're getting. After that, all the clients are going to check in, right? So everyone's going to take a couple of minutes to talk about what's been going on for them since the last group or individual session. What's come up? Has there been any challenges? Has there been anything you've really been struggling with? Or is there something that went really well for you that, you did something that used to trigger quite a lot of anxiety, and now that anxiety has been reduced because you used a skill that you learned, something like that. So we're all going to check in, see where we're at, and connect with each other as a group. And then after that, we're probably going to go into some learning, some curriculum, some skills teaching. So it could be psychoeducation, where we're teaching you about the physical responses of anxiety and why that happens and what happens in the body and the brain. Or it could be that we're working on a skill that is proven to help with depression. So it could be a DBT skill or a CBT skill. And so we're teaching you step by step how to use the skill, when you use it, why it works, and everyone's kind of learning together about that specific skill. After that, we might do some skills practice where we actually all try and practice the skill, or we might review a skill that we learned last time, and everybody's going to talk to each other about how it went for them and is going to learn from each other. Well, I actually used it in this situation and that really helped me. Okay, great. I'm going to try that. So, it's an environment that is always facilitated by a master's level therapist. It's always, evidence and curriculum based where, we're using proven therapies. But it is a group environment where, you as an individual are with people who are going through the same thing. You're with people who are having similar experiences, who are experiencing similar challenges, and you get to work together and have that peer support group who really understands you. And that's really, really important. And I think sometimes we don't talk about enough about how important that is because mental health can be so isolating. It can be so isolating. You can feel like you are the only person who feels this way. And you get to enter in a room of, 10 other people who are having the exact same challenges. And some of them are a little further ahead and they've had a bunch of improvement and you can really be inspired by them. So that's a typical group. So that's a lot of detail. You're also going to have an individual therapy session every week. And, you might hear from our support team, or you might reach out to them in between sessions if you're struggling. You can use our app in between sessions to practice those skills. So if we've taught you a DBT skill in group, you're going to be able to open up the app that comes with the program and practice it, do an exercise, all of that kind of stuff. So even though it is an online program, lots of support. You're gonna hear from all of us. We're gonna be there.
That sounds great. When you do your individual sessions, is that with the same therapists that are doing the group during the week?
Typically, yeah. Usually, I mean, it really depends on what your individual needs are. Sometimes we might pair you with a therapist who's not doing the group because they have a specialty in a specific type of therapy that might really benefit you. But typically it will be. Usually you'll be working with, 2 therapists doing the groups, and one of them would also be doing your individual therapy.
Awesome. That sounds really great. You mentioned addictions and how the group therapy kind of stems from addiction treatment. You guys are quite well known. When we hear the name, Edgewood or and we hear EHN, then that's kind of what people who do know about you would think about. Can you go a bit into, let's say somebody is experiencing addiction, how that would impact them in the workplace and what you guys can do to help, even if it's beyond the IOP program?
Yeah, for sure. So, addiction shows up in the workplace a lot like any other health condition, though it does have a few specific issues that maybe you only see with addiction. As I mentioned, as we see symptoms worsen and as we see, the substance use disorder progress from mild to moderate to severe, it's going to be harder and harder for that individual to function at full capacity. Right? It's going to be harder and harder for them to fully engage at work, fully participate at work, and in all aspects of their life. We're talking about work right now, but this happens in family. This happens with parenting. This happens with elder care. Like it becomes harder and harder to do what you would normally do in the way that you would normally do it. When it comes to addiction specifically, there are certain things we can see substance use affecting the workplace. Some employees may actually be using during work hours, which of course is a problem. More often, we do see employees who are using quite a bit after work, and then that's really affecting their ability to perform the next day, not that they're actually using at work. We can sometimes see, again, employees who are limiting their use to outside of work hours, really use a lot, drink a lot of alcohol, something like that during company functions, right? During employee parties, and you can really, you can see that there. I think the other thing is, of course, if things are getting very severe and there is use happening during work hours, that's obviously really, really a problem for anybody in any kind of safety sensitive position. So, addiction can be can now start to impact the safety of others in the workplace. And so it is really, really important to get those folks the help that they need, because we can't have the employee putting themselves or anybody else at risk of hurt or damage. Um, and so, you know, we are really well known for addiction, and our intensive outpatient programs are really designed to support clients in that moderate category. And when things become very severe, because of course, addiction can have a physical component to it in terms of physical dependency. That's where we start looking at things like an inpatient stay. And whether that's a short-term inpatient stay for physical stabilization and medical withdrawal and detox, and then into an IOP, or whether that's a longer-term stay, for something like 45 to 90 days. It really just depends on what the client needs. And we do our best to really work with workplaces and benefits providers to make that accessible to clients.
Great. So we've talked about what you guys are doing now. Is there anything that you're really excited to share, future goals, or what's coming down the pipeline at EHN?
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot coming down the pipeline at EHN. We are, our mission is to provide care that is excellent, that's affordable, and that's accessible. And so all of our growth planning really revolves around that, right? And there is so much to do in that space. So I would say just a couple of examples of things that I'm really excited about. On the outpatient team, we're really working on expanding our virtual medical care across the country. This is going to be a huge impact for clients, because they're going to be able to get the therapeutic support at the same time and from the same team that are working together as they're getting their medical support. So their therapy skills and any medications they might need coming together in conjunction, getting them at the same time. It's best practice. And it's not always easy to coordinate in virtual care. And so, you have lots of complications with that, but we are working, and we're very excited to be getting our medical care rolled out across all of our IOPs across the country, which means that, if you're part of this PEPM, depending on where your employees live, they might be getting this sooner rather than later. So I'm very excited about that, because that's going to make a big difference for clients, because they don't have to try and coordinate their family doctor and us. Just makes everything a lot easier. Also, we're always expanding our treatment capacities all over the country. So we're always opening new facilities each year. So that is always a really exciting moment when we know we can reach more people all across Canada. And I think the other thing is that we've typically been an organization that focuses on treating adults, but there's a huge need with our teens, right? There is a huge need with our youth, and we have our online Healthy Minds teen program, and we're working on getting a day program for more severe youth up and running here in Toronto. So lots of exciting stuff going on. And like I said, it's all really built around increasing access. That's what I think what drives most of us here.
That's awesome. So I think we've talked for about half an hour now. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you're just sort of itching to tell everybody? Any other things you're excited about, or that I missed asking about EHN that employers should know right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I always say when I am talking to employers is that mild doesn't show up in the workplace typically. So you have amazing supports for mild and for crisis, right? Like I said, we love the work that EAPs do, that ICBT, that some employers have included, can provide the psychology benefits that people can use towards individual counseling. Like, those are amazing supports. And most people are in that category. Most people, when we look at the spectrum, the majority of folks are going to be in the mild category. Those mild solutions are going to do what they need, and they're going to feel really supported by their workplace and by their employer. But what I would say is that if you are starting to see it at work, typically we're already on the moderate side. employees are most of us, right? We do a great job. Like if something is in that mild category, we're really still usually able to balance all of our workplace and our personal responsibilities. So I would say that if you're concerned about an employee's mental health, it is starting to show up at work. Your chances are we may already be towards the moderate side and maybe needing to look at some more intensive supports. I think that's something a lot of people don't know.
Yeah, that's good advice. Awesome. Well, I think we've covered pretty much everything. We're really excited to launch this fall with you guys in partnership and finally have a solution for our clients that have been looking for something for their employees for moderate to severe that they can access confidentially and right away. So
Absolutely. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. And for anyone who's on the leadership side of these companies, I will see you sometimes in immersive education and some of my other teams. And just we really look forward to working closely with you. And if anybody who's watching this is somebody who's thinking that they may need to access treatment, what I would say is that, we are here for you. Just give us a call, reach out, use that screening tool. This might not be the right fit, but even if it's not, we're going to help you figure out what the right fit is.